My name is Stephanie. I am one of the community managers here at Code Academy. It is great to see you all, and I am so excited for all of you to be here and to listen to our speaker, Jimmy Sorto, today on his story and really how he transitioned careers and how Code Academy played a part. So, we're really excited to welcome Jimmy Sorto. He is a 30-year-old SOC Security Specialist at Expel, living in the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area. After spending 8 years in marketing, Jimmy made a major pivot into cybersecurity and did so within just a few months, also with the help of Codecademy, which is really exciting. And in today's session, we're going to talk to Jimmy about his career transition and his career currently, including how he found time to upskill and learn new technical knowledge, ways he saved money to fund his career change, how he landed the job in ACE interview, and insights into what he wished he knew before making the switch. So today's programming, we're going to be doing a Q&A with Jimmy, and then we'll be leaving some time at the end of the session for you to ask questions to Jimmy yourself. You can put it in the chat and we'll share that with him and hopefully get some of your questions answered. With that said, I am going to pass it to Jimmy right now to just give a quick intro on who he is, beyond what I shared, and we'll get started on our conversation.
Cool. Thank you, Stephanie. Yeah. Hi everyone. Thank you for coming tonight or whatever you are in the world. So a few places, but yeah, Jimmy Sorto. I am originally from the DC area. I think I saw somebody who goes to Howard, so shout out to you. But a little quick backstory, like Stephanie mentioned, I do come from a marketing background. I my expertise was mainly in events, so kind of photography, videography, designing, and then that kind of like segue into me promoting these events and for different corporate events in DC. And um, and kind of I like maybe throw like a fun fact in there. So I'm a big soccer fan. So locally here at DC United, that's like my go-to team. And if there's any other soccer fans out there, you guys would know that Barcelona are in the run in the Champions League. So excited about that. But yeah, overall, I'm excited to be here. I saw very good questions in the chat already, so hopefully we get to answer some of those in the Q&A and help you guys out. So happy
Thank
to be
you.
here.
Also, for those of you who do not know, Jimmy already has done a really awesome blog feature on his journey on our Codecademy blog, which I will put on the chat. It's a great time to just skim it and read it, and then just to get some context of who Jimmy is. But let's get started in our conversation. Jimmy, our first question for you is about your career shift and kind of your motivation behind it. So, you transitioned from a marketing background into cybersecurity. What was the hardest part about making that leap, and what skills from your post-career have unexpectedly helped you in your current role?
Yeah, great question. I think for me, so like you mentioned, I was laid off, right? So I think for me, the transition was kind of like forced upon, right? It wasn't, by choice, but it was a little backstory. So I got laid off back in 2023 from my job, and it was kind of foreseen, kind of expected, but unfortunately it happened, right? But I think for me, the biggest thing to overcome at that point was uh give or take the like I think I had imposter syndrome before I even got into it, if that makes sense. Just because like I had like self-doubt. I can't do this. Like I come from like marketing. I have like the basic knowledge of computers, basic knowledge of networks, right? You I would the most I knew was about like Wi-Fi, right? What's the Wi-Fi password? I had no further recollection of what, the importance of, web keys and all that good stuff and IP addresses, right? So it's my understanding was very broad. So I just having that get over that hurdle of that self-doubt that I couldn't learn it, right? And I think you don't know until you actually try. And that was one of the things that kind of like pushed me to like actually dive into learning the basics. And uh I, early on, Code Academy was like that stepping stone that really like solidified the foundation to like, okay, I can learn the basics in, X amount of time. From like, I'm talking like rudimentary, some of you might think it's basic, but like the hardware and like the software that goes into a computer, like the motherboard, like all that fun stuff that goes into the ins and out of a computer, right? That I was starting out from basics, like that was really like the foundation for me, and then slowly diving into like okay, like diving into networks, and that was kind of like the snowball effect that helped me go into it. And the second part of the question was about skills, I think it was.
Yes. What skills from your past career have unexpectedly helped you in your current role?
Yeah, yeah. So I think soft skills go a long way. For me, coming from a marketing background, I'm interacting with people, every day, whether it's virtually or in the office or at events, networking with people, right? And I think just being able to communicate properly, and communicate effectively, get points across, right? Because and within cybersecurity, there are, especially within the role I'm in, there are certain nuances that go in terms of like triaging alerts that come in on a day to day, and our customers, they've hired us to go through the weeds and the grass to figure out what's malicious, what's okay, what's good, right? And it's up to us to communicate our findings and what we've found within our investigation in a way that they can understand. If I'm communicating with my colleague and we're going through the weeds and the grass to trying to figure out what's going on, obviously like being able to communicate with them a certain way as well because we have to be very efficient and at the same time accurate, and in a timely manner as well because alerts are coming in and we have to go with them at a certain pace. At the same, like I said, accurate is key as well, but with the efficiency of being able to get through all those alerts. So communication is very important, and when it comes to that, and that's something that definitely translates, I believe, across many industries.
Definitely. I think sometimes soft skills are overlooked.
Yeah.
But communication is key, not just with working in a team, but also in your day-to-day actual work. Thank you for sharing that. A little bit more before we jump into the career that you are in now. You mentioned Codecademy and the idea of gamification really helped you stay motivated. Can you share a moment during your learning journey when things finally clicked for you? Maybe you can talk about like, was it hard for you to stay motivated? And maybe some tips and tricks because a lot of our learners are currently in that place right now where they are really working to jump to their next career or their next level in their work.
Yeah, yeah, good question. For me, yeah, I'm super into games, right? I'm very like into video games, so I think gamification was like what helped me stay motivated, and I think part of the reasons why is because of being able to have some type of progress, it like presented for me was very important. Whether it's completing like X amount of courses in a given week, and I think setting the daily goals and weekly goals of completing those courses motivated me to like okay like, I knocked out five, I knocked out four, uh and seeing that progress go on and like the achievements that you get from that helped me stay motivated to keep going because there are days where I was like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have the motivation to get right to get over those hurdles, but um yeah, that was one of like the main things that kept me going on top of like having like an amazing support system. I have like, great family and friends who kept me afloat and motivated me to keep going. Um and and yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. So let's talk about kind of breaking into the industry. Getting your first job in cybersecurity is no small feat. What do you think made you stand out as a candidate, especially coming from a non-traditional background?
Yeah, and that was also another great question. I think there was an interview question earlier about when did you know you were ready for interview? Um, you don't know, but I'll dive a little bit deeper into that. But um, for me, what helped me stand out with an interview process uh was because like you said, my background has no real, connection with cybersecurity, and I think what I've learned is that the people that was interviewing now, some of them are my managers. Um, they aren't really they're obviously looking for somebody who is capable of conducting the job and being excellent and being able to be able to actually do the job, but at the same time they're looking for people who are good to work with, people who can work in a team environment, uh also people who don't shy away from criticism. If you know someone within your team, and they might have done something incorrectly, or just might have been missed a step in the process, right? Circling back to them like, hey, like, you did great at this, but just as a reminder, like, let's remember to do this step, right? And I think uh being able to take that constructive criticism is key, I think. And I was able to show that within the interview. I think I within the there was 2 rounds, right? I mean, well, technically it was 3 rounds, but there was like kind of like a soft skills, like we mentioned earlier, about just getting to know the person and like what would you do in this type of like environment, and then the technical interview, which a lot of you might have heard of, where it's like whether it's like coding or whether it's like whatever industry it is, but in cybersecurity is very more so particular, was about how do you go about investigating this type of alert, this type of uh, for me it was email, right? So for me, how do you go about investigating this email? Is it malicious? Is it phishing? Is it benign? Is it just spam, right? So it's like, how do you go about making that determination? And for me, right, I had like a very broad understanding of cybersecurity, and obviously I studied up, leading into it, what the role actually entailed. But I want to say I did my best within the technical interview. But what I showed was that there were definitely things I didn't understand. I just didn't know. But I made it a thing to follow up with the interview, like, hey, like, I this one question definitely stumped me. Look, like, circling back, I did some research, and this is what I found out about that question that you asked me. So I think that can also help you in the interview process, just being able to stand out, because these, interviewers are getting 1,000 plus resumes a day, right? They're getting 1,000 plus DMs. But making you stand out, just being personable, being just a human being, a good human being, can go a long way. And trying to go above and beyond to show that you can, learn and be able to take criticism is important.
How did earning your CompTIA security certification change your confidence or job prospects? Would you recommend that path to others starting out?
For sure, it's especially for career changers. I think the certifications are super helpful. They can help uh showcase that you are able to intake knowledge and be able to take some type of like test, and are proficient in it. And it definitely helps within the interview process. But I'm gonna be honest, like, my certifications, and I put in, like, I did home labs and all this stuff, like, that wasn't really brought up. Obviously they look at it, right? But I think the for me, it was more of like you mentioned, like a self-validation, kind of like a extra push to, like, okay, like, I do know what I'm doing. Especially for me, like, going into that CompTIA test, I was like, I was nervous. Like, it was a whole process, but for me, the fact that I passed on my first time was gonna get cool. Like, I do know my stuff. I can get through this, and I'm on the right path, right? So that extra, like, for me, through the whole process as well, it kind of going back into the whole gamification, like celebrating the small wins to eventually circle back and like snowball into creating like a bigger win. So
Awesome. Before we dive deeper into your work now and questions about that, could you just give us a quick overview about what your job entails?
yeah, yeah, great question. So for me, so my title is a SOC specialist, SOC security specialist. And if I were to, some of you might be familiar. So there's like, SOC security analysts like tier one, then tier two. I'm in the tier one, so I'm like kind of like the entry level going into cybersecurity, and what it really entails. So I am basically a part of a team that is triaging or investigating alerts coming in from various customers. There's the company I work for is the MDR provider, so we just we oversee several customers' environments. Part of it, which is in my department, is the emails. So a lot of like emails are coming in into our customers and inboxes. Uh, if something comes up and it's looks like spam, malicious, or just suspicious, it comes to our queue, and we make the determination of whether something is malicious or benign. Um, and yeah, I'm just in the queue. We call it very uh kind of like going through the weeds and grass, because like we are getting a lot of like things that look suspicious, but it's just um like Walmart sending you a promotion for that weekend. But because of like now, I think people uh are more weary of clicking on links, which is good. Please always be wary of clicking on links. If it's especially if it's something that from someone from a sender that's not too familiar within your environment. Um, better safe than sorry, right? So yeah, I think that was a little bit long-winded answer, but yeah, that's overall my job.
No, that's great. So let's dive deeper into that. You mentioned your day-to-day job involves phishing investigations. What what can you share? I want to preface when you answer this question, share what you can. If you can't share it, it's okay. But what has been one of the most surprising or eye-opening incidents that you've come across in your career?
Good question. I think without giving in to too details, what without giving the customer's name, we have a customer that is pretty huge, like they're worldwide, and I think just having that broad of employees within their environment, they're more prone to getting compromised. And I think for me, it's funny because uh, within like maybe the second, I went through a 3 week of just training, like learning the ins and outs from like just getting onboarded. And then my first week on actually by myself, like they call it like taking off the training wheels basically. On my first day, I had an incident where like I think 3 to 4 well, the actual clickers the actual amount of clickers who clicked the actual malicious link ranged between maybe 10 to 20, right? Within which is I come to find out now is not too uncommon for this customer. But there was like maybe like 4 to 5 people who actually got compromised. And by compromise, I mean as their email and password got sent to the malicious attacker, and that was kind of like, oh wow, way to rip the band-aid off and just really dive into it right into the deep end. But yeah, that incident, well, for me, super eye-opening, but also just a great learning experience because had I have great teammates who really like walked me through that process. How do you promote this incident? How do you get it to uh, basically the uh, proper analysts who are going to escalate this to the customer and get the proper remediation actions to make sure that um, for one to see what how much damage has actually been done and get it contained. So that's kind of like the main thing for that. But yeah, week one just trained to a incident was kind of like wow, okay, we're really in here.
Mhm. Going back to the theme of communication and how important communication is, this question kind of goes off that. Storytelling plays a big role in your work as a SOC analyst. How do you approach explaining complex security threats to non-technical stakeholders or your teammates?
Good question. So, I think for me, coming from a marketing standpoint, and also just like like I mentioned, videography. So being able to tell a story is very something that I, take very pride in because I did it for 8 years and uh, being able to tell a story visually. And I think for now, translating that into like cybersecurity, it's super important. Like you said, like our stakeholders aren't they hired us to do the dirty work, right? So being able to communicate like, oh, we found like suspicious login within the logs of like of your environment. I'm not going to in details of like, where we got the logs from or everything. Obviously, it's in the findings, right? They can go and look through what we've investigated through. But our job is to basically give them like the summarized version of what happened, and give them the details that will make sense to them, right? So who is the user, if it was a compromised user, right? Dates and times, stuff like that. Just like you said, painting the picture of like what happened, right? So they have understanding of how to, for the future prevent something like this from happening, right? And so yeah, all that good documentation it's very, very pivotal for this. So I think for me, like I said, like coming from a marketing standpoint, like I used to like help host and run events like this too. So like writing uh the the captions or like writing up like different uh like design posters, like all that fun stuff. Like I come from that as well. So being able to tell the story, um, you know, translate into this as well.
Yeah. Um, let's talk a little bit about community and mentorship. You talked about the importance of reaching out to others in the cybersecurity community. Can you share a time when someone's advice or support made a real difference for you? And maybe talk a little bit about your journey about when were you kind of reaching out? Was it when you were still learning everything, when you're looking for a job? I think a lot of our learners are also wondering what more can they do while they are taking courses. And obviously, there's so much power in community mentorship, but how do they do that effectively in the different stages of that journey for them?
For sure. So for me, I'm gonna be honest, and early on, I was, very shy, very, very timid to even want to reach out to people on LinkedIn. Like, it was very intimidating. So it's like in that early stage is understandable. You're just getting into it. You don't really know that many people. So for me, I think I had the privilege to have a friend who was already in cybersecurity, not necessarily within the SOC, right, and not in the technical aspect, but he worked in the HR department of a cybersecurity company, and which is my good friend Nico. He actually helped me dive into Expel, right, was a good. So yeah, I think for having someone like that helped me in the beginning stages to just be able to uh have like a understanding with like of cybersecurity, introduction to it. Later on, maybe like 3 or 4 months into it, I started to like um branch out and like kind of find my niche, if that makes sense. So like I found this uh Slack community, where this community and they have a Slack channel where basically it's basically Latinos in tech. So it was a lot of Latinos who are from coders, software developers, from who are technical, people who are just in sales and tech. And there was a little sub niche of cybersecurity folks. And that was kind of like where I found a home and also found familiar faces of people within my community that are just encouraging people that will encourage you to um, continue to learn, continue to grow. And I think that was kind of like within like midway through my journey. And I think now I'm just like you come to find that like LinkedIn is like use LinkedIn like as if it is social media because it is social media, right? But use it as if it is your Facebook, as it is your Instagram. Because again, within the community of cybersecurity, there are, or just in any industry, would assume it is, but like, particularly in cybersecurity, the people in there are super helpful. They are always welcome to answer any questions or just, build a connection, right? And I think in LinkedIn that's is very foster that, right? If you uh want to connect with someone who's works at a certain company or someone who's studying something that you might be studying. And I ran into many people who are, are in like try hack me or hack the box. Like if they're doing CTFs, like I will post a CTF that I pwned on the hack the box, and I'll have like two or three people comment, be like, "Oh wait, I was working on that." Like you want to like share and be able to like build on what you learn from there. So yeah, I think yeah, the building that community is very pivotal, very important. Having some type of mentorship can be super helpful as well. And it can be anybody. Like honestly, it can be a fellow student, someone who is like um in that same journey that you're going on. It could be someone who's already has like that tenure, journey as well, of experience. But yeah.
Nice. I'm going to ask you one more question before we open it up to our learners here in the audience. To wrap it up, what's next for you in your cybersecurity journey? Are there any goals or certificates or areas that you're excited to dive deeper into?
Yeah, great question. So right now I am 6 months into my current role. I have already started diving into MDR, like which is kind of like the nitty-gritty of really within our customer environments. And it's been a journey, but like for me, I think um diving into cloud is something I'm very interested in, and getting that certification from whether I'm leaning towards AWS, but we'll see. I gotta do some more research on, excuse me, on which would make the most sense within my current role. But yeah, for me, diving deeper into cloud is something that's piqued my interest.
Nice. We have a lot of great questions from our learners, so we're gonna just dive into those questions right now. If anybody in the audience has more questions as we go along, feel free to put them in the chat. But for the first question I have for you, one of our learners wants to know, excited to know what made you want to change careers and what made you know that you were ready to start interviewing.
Yeah, I think I saw that earlier. So for me, Uh, what made me want to change careers? Like I said, I got laid off from my previous job, and it was in marketing, and again, no prior knowledge to cybersecurity. But my the good friend I mentioned, Nico, he gave me one of like the best analogy that I got, which was think of cybersecurity as like a Call of Duty game. So there's like A team and B team, and one team is has an objective to achieve, and the other team might be trying to prevent that objective, right? And think of that as like a red team, blue team within cybersecurity, where you have red team trying to gain 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 a privilege into or compromise a device, and the blue team is trying to create the proper barriers and defense to prevent them from getting in. And when he broke it down like that, that was like game changer. I was like, okay, that I can get into. The gamification of this is what got me into it, and on my day to day, that's kind of how I treat it too. Just how many alerts can I go through in a day? How many alerts can I go through in an hour, right? But yeah, transitioning that was kind of like my thought process in the beginning is just making the transition into cybersecurity that was presented for me from a valuable source, somebody I trust, like my friend. And the more I learned of cybersecurity, it was like, okay, this is actually very interesting. I'm really I'm the more I learned, the more how broad cybersecurity is. I just kept diving deeper into it, and it snowballed from there. What made you more? And okay, so second part was what made you know you were ready to start interviewing. So yeah, like I mentioned earlier, you don't know. You again, you can prep yourself the best you can, obviously, right? You can uh gaining the technical skills and knowledge, obviously is vital in that. Um and but like I said, cybersecurity is so broad that it's almost impossible to know everything. And the interviewer doesn't expect you to know everything. And it's best you just be honest when you don't know something, right? But for me, I didn't know I was ready for an interview, and but I pushed myself to get ready, right? So that doing mock interviews, getting mock up questions, and doing your just prepping yourself the best you can, and and trying to overcome uh those imposter syndrome, just like like negative thoughts you might have of like self doubts and like I'm gonna bomb this interview, right? Just going trying to getting over that and just reminding yourself like, okay, like I prep myself the best way I can, and I'm gonna just put my best foot forward, be honest, and just showcase how great of a person you are.
The question just came in, but I think it's good to answer right after this question, right, that you just answered. But what made you make the transition from marketing to cybersecurity?
Uh, so I could dive in deeper. So for me, it was more so the stability. For me, marketing, I've been doing it for 8 years, and a part of it was freelancing. I had gigs on the side. I would shoot at corporate events, or I would do more creative stuff. I would work with music festivals and artists, right? And for me, it was a big portion of it was just stability, financial, and I just turned 30 last year. At the time when I got laid off, I was 28. And For me, I was at a point in my life where I wanted to make a transition to something that will provide not only for myself but a future family, right? And I think that was a big factor into it. But at the same time, like I didn't want to go and do something that I couldn't see myself doing every day, right? I'm very big on like working and doing something that you enjoy, or you find purpose in. And cybersecurity was definitely that. You know, I didn't know it at the time, right, in the beginning, right? But um, finding something that you find fulfilling, that you find purpose, that you find some type of enjoyment, right, can go a long way in making that career transition. But yeah, a big part of it was that financial stability.
And we have some questions here about what you did while you were here on Codecademy's platform. So the first one is, what courses did you take for cybersecurity at Codecademy?
Good question. And I just had it open up on my profile. So I did, let's see here. So starting off, I did a lot of like just overall like introduction to like tech. So I did like operation system introduction, fundamentals of operating systems, and just getting like the groundwork for that. Because again, starting from ground zero, like I knew about like Windows, I knew about the different like operating system like a Mac, right? But like really understanding what all of that meant and how does that translate into like our customers' environment, right? Like now it makes sense, right? If like for example, if I see an alert comes in from somebody who is signing in from like Windows 98, right, or Windows 6 or something, like that's a huge red flag, right? It's like okay, that's some type of like attacker trying who has possibly gained access, right, or is trying to gain access. But yeah, a lot of fundamental stuff. I did uh there's actually a CompTIA IT fundamental operation test. I did that as well. Um Pretty much like the entire uh cybersecurity. Like I'm looking at it now, it's like my I think I might have missed one because there is like one or two that you have to pay to finish them. But again, I was also on a budget as well, and I encourage you all to try to find, as there are plenty of free resources out there. Use them because I would highly recommend saving as much as you can. And obviously, if you are capable and able, pay when you can. But yeah, uh, I I think I might have, yeah, I did like one Python introduction course. And I think that's another point as well. Like having an understanding of different coding languages is it's important. But it's not the end of the world if you don't know how to, write scripts, right? It's something it can definitely be helpful, and definitely encourage you to learn like as you continue to grow. But if you don't have that prior knowledge, like it's fine. Like you're not gonna get bombarded and expected to know that much. But yeah,
Great. One of our learners said, I'm taking some classes here on Codecademy, but want to know how important is the portfolio slash projects to get an entry-level job in cybersecurity.
gotcha. I would say it's very important, especially if you're coming from a completely different industry. You're not going to have that back. You're not going to have like the experience to showcase that the skills and knowledge of whatever job you're trying to apply for. But yeah, heavily on building that portfolio. Even if it's like on GitHub, like just creating some type of like showcase of like this is what I've worked on and here's like what I've learned, right? That's can go a long way to showcase that. Home projects, home labs, like those are super helpful, super important. Like I mentioned earlier, like I put like a bunch of home labs that I worked on in my resume, and I might have misspoken. I didn't mean like they overlooked it, but it definitely isn't really brought up in terms of like we see that you did it's more so how can you translate that what you put down into like this technical question or this like alert that we're showing you, right? Because like for example, like one of it was um utilizing Yara rules, which are basically like a language to create automation, right? And at the time, like I put that I did a home lab on creating Java rules to weed out malware, and that was like maybe like 6 months into my career transition journey, and I just did that home lab just because like it looked interesting, right? And then fast forward like 4 months later, it's in the interview process. So I think showcasing your labs are important, but at the same time being honest, right? And I was like, yeah, totally remember about Yara rules. Can I answer in depth about what they do and what it is? I'm gonna be honest, I can't. But that goes back to the whole like circling back and being honest and hey, like following up with the interviewer and being like, oh, this is something that I researched on and I come to find out about da da da. So yeah, that was uh super important.
Mhm. Um, can one get a coder job without internships?
Uh, I I think with this landscape, it's can be difficult. I would say it's not impossible for sure. I think you can definitely land a job without having internships. Like I said, home labs and uh, portfolio can go a long way. Internships definitely help, right? But if you don't land an internship and is that won't be the sole purpose why you don't get a call back or get a job. I think you showcasing your skills and your knowledge can go a little can still go a long way without the internship.
Great. Um, I feel like you might have answered these questions, but I'll ask them and you can see if there's anything you wanted to add. What drew you to cybersecurity from marketing? Someone's also asking, how did you become interested in cybersecurity? Um, there are many subfields in cybersecurity and IT. How do we explore various subfields and find the best one for ourselves?
Yeah, I kind of like that question. So like yeah, cybersecurity is very broad. It's so many different avenues you can go to. Like you don't even have to be within a technical aspect of it either. You can go into more like the uh kind of like human aspect of it and just communicating with like different customers and creating relationships. But I think finding what works for you, I think that kind of just kind you just gotta dive into it. Like you have to really learn, you look at what's out there. Like I think you wrote cloud security, like dive into cloud security and understand what cloud is and seeing how different infrastructures, work, like with AWS, Azure, like and seeing if you like it, like I don't know, it's very vague, but for me, I I knew I wanted to go into more of the technical side of things, just because it keeps me on my toes. Like I'm very big on again gaming, right? But at the same time, like I'm heavy into critical thinking and trying to solve puzzles. A lot of these alerts and investigations are heavily on uh critical thinking, being able to uh think like an attacker and how they would think and how and retrace your steps on going about how they went about the creating the attack. So it's yeah, you're always on your toes. There's nothing that's going to be boring, all right? And so yeah, just finding things that you find interest in and just kind of just explore as much as you can. Like um I'm heavy on, I'm a visual learner, so I was on YouTube. I am still on YouTube. Like there's so many resources out there. There are also a lot of like I was never really big on like uh keeping up with current events and news. But I podcasts and like there's like I'm drawing a blank on his name now, but there's this guy on YouTube. He goes live every day at 8 a.m. Eastern time, I think. And I just play in the background just because like there's so many new things coming up and new incidents from different companies, different attack vectors are popping up, new CVEs, like, and that's one of the best way to keep up to date, right? So the more you dive into it, the more you'll find things that can help you find out what you like and what interests you more.
And our last question before we wrap things up here, one of our learners wants to know, what do you think matters the most, knowledge or certifications? And if you don't think it's either of those two things, what is it?
Great, great question. uh, what matters the most? I think it's a mixture of both. You can have the knowledge, but I mean, like put it this way, like I work with people who have no certifications, and they are probably probably know a plethora of like cybersecurity and what it means to be in that industry, but no certifications. And there are some people who have every certification, but when it comes down to actually doing the work or uh, showcasing that knowledge or skills, they fall short sometimes, right? So I think certifications can help, in the long run, and can also help you. Like for me, like it gave me that self validation, it gave me that encouragement to like, okay, I am capable of doing something like this. Um, but at the end of the day, it's not the end all be all, right? It is also a good way to like if you are self-learning, like how I was, like it's a good way to guide how to learn and how to like not get lost and like with there's so many information out there, right? So it's a good way to guide and what to study up on. So it helps in that. But I think what matters most, I would just say, is uh I think being a genuinely good person, just being honest, like all these soft skills that I mentioned earlier can go a long way. Because again, if you go on LinkedIn, you'll see people who have like plethora of like skills and certs and everything, and they submit their resumes, but they're not getting callbacks, or they will go through one round interview, and they might not get a callback after that, right? So but I think again, it kind of goes back to those soft skills, right? And just being like honest, a genuine good person, and being open to criticism, being able to work within the team environment, um, and yeah. So if I was just if I was to answer that, I would just say what matters most is your soft skills, I would say.
Nice. Thank you so much, Jimmy, for your time today and really sharing your career journey with us, as well as advice for our learners who might want to be at a place that you're at right now. Jimmy, are there any social links that we can share if any of our learners wanted to reach out to you, LinkedIn or on our Circle platform on Codecademy, whatever you're comfortable with?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. If you guys want to follow up or connect and have any further questions, just look me up on LinkedIn. My name. So yes, on my yeah. So Jimmy Sorto. I will be wearing a hat in one. Actually, I'm not wearing a hat in that photo. But I have like a plano on there. Yeah, you'll see. It will say SOC Specialist at Expel. But yeah, shoot me a request to connect and a question or just anything you might want to dive into. I'm all open book. Happy to help any way I can.
Thank you. And for everyone here, thank you so much for being here. This recording will be posted on Codecademy's YouTube. So if you want to rewatch anything, you can visit us there. But I hope everyone had a great time and is leaving with something valuable or something encouraging that you can bring with you onto your learner journey. And again, thank you so much, Jimmy, for being here. I will see you all at the next one. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you all.